Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Warhammer Return of Reckoning, a private server where the sole focus of the game is to just PvP and nothing else. Ever. Joking on that last point, there is a little bit of PvE. There are some dungeons you can do. There's some lair bosses, which is open world, little mini 5 to 6 man bosses that are out in the realm versus realm world, which is the faction versus faction zone. So what is going to end up becoming a 3-part video because I don't know how to edit properly and I really can't stop talking. So this first video is going to be talking about the classes and races of the destruction. The second video is going to be talking about the classes and races of order. And the third video is going to be in-game with tips and tricks on how to exactly gear up your first couple of hours of the game, what public quests are, exactly how do you get emblems and how important they are, and overall just the progression and pacing of the game. The third video, which we'll talk about in-game, that video is going to be more for the people who have already started playing. These first two videos are just going to be talking about which classes you want to play. So, with that being said, let's get on to the video. So starting up, we have these squig herders. Squig herders and the rest of the classes in the game have 3 specializations going with it for a total of 72 specializations across both factions. The specializations for the squig herder allow it to do more ranged DPS, more kind of skirmishy damage, and then the one that's really popular right now is where you get to run around inside of your own pet, a giant version of your own pet, and wear it as like a suit of armor, and you go up and you attack things in melee. Currently, that is going to be one of the more favorited gameplays for the squig herder. Personally, I prefer a ranged aspect for the squig herder, but this is where we're at. Moving on to the next one is another goblin. It's a shaman. It's a healer. Now, the shaman and its mirror counterpart, the archmage over on Order, have a unique ability that allows them to pump up their healing by doing damage to enemies. This is one of the starting healers that you can really get a grasp on. It's very new player friendly. You can do a little bit of damage, so if you're not quite sure what you want to do, but you still want to feel like you're putting some damage numbers in, shaman's going to be the right class for you. Moving on to the tank role. The tank role is very important in Warhammer. In my opinion, the 3 most important stats, starting from best to worst, are your defensive stats, your healing stats, and then your DPS stats. If you can't take the damage, you're not going to be able to do the damage or heal through the damage, right? Tanks are the masters of avoidance, negating as much damage, and throwing a guard, which is a unique mechanic only for all the tank classes on both factions, that will allow them to select a target, make them very, very resistant to more damage, and if they do take damage, there's a chance that you could block or parry an attack that was meant for them, and as long as you're within 30 feet of them, you can help negate some of the damage that your allies will take. The Black Orc has the ability to also use a two-handed weapon variety as one of their specializations. So if you want to do a little bit more damage, or if there's a lot of other tanks in your SC, which is Battlegrounds in this game, then you can throw on a two-hander and just start whacking things. Currently, Black Orc is popular among the tanks on destruction because of its raw damage potential for a two-handed. If you don't have a sword and board tank on your team, you might want to still run sword and board because tanks with proper mitigation techniques are one of the most useful additions in a team fight. And last but not least, for the greenskins, we're going to have the chopper. Super easy, self-explanatory. Go in, kick some ass, get angry, do some more damage, get really angry, and then you take more damage while dealing more damage. These are melee kings. They do a lot of AoE damage. They do a lot of single target damage. They will go up and mess your shit up. However, these are going to be some of the squishier melee damage types because they take increased damage at the max rage bar, which is furious, I believe. This is going to be, if you end up deciding to play a tank, no matter what race you pick, you're going to want to guard the choppas. The choppas will make sure that an enemy dies very, very quickly. So if you're a tank, you have guard, you don't know who to throw it on a chopper. 9 times out of 10, you're doing it right. We're moving on to the Chaos next. Now, the Chaos are going to be the Nord-esque, shout out to my Scandinavian friends, These are going to be your warriors of the north, your hardcore metal Vikings. These are the guys who play death metal while ripping your spine from your still breathing body. It's pretty brutal. First, we're going to start with the Zealot. The Zealot is a straight up healer, very strong single target healer. It's range support. It has a couple of unique dots, and they also throw marks on the enemy, which allow them to bolster their own stats and also their allies' stats. But it also has a unique mechanic where it gives them additional abilities to cast. So if you threw a specific ability, a mark on a tank, for example, that tank will have access to a ranged single target damage or an AoE style ability that you're able to choose for them, like the Zealot, and they can add it to their hotbar, and they just get another free ability that they could use. So Zealots are pretty nice for that as well. The Marauder. So the Marauder is a very special melee DPS. Um, a little bit tankier. It's definitely a brawler than its chopper counterpart. However, it's allowed the Marauder is allowed to change their physical appearance by selecting mutations, as you can see right there. Pretty cool. Definitely fits the theme of Chaos very, very well. You're able to have multiple different mutations that allow you to do more AoE damage, a little bit more healing, apply more bleeds, have faster attack speed. If you want a melee DPS that has a little bit of utility while still providing a decent amount of damage, Marauder's in a very good spot right now. And it's very efficient for AoE grinding. Marauder for this for Chaos is going to be one of your better picks if you like a more utility-based and melee DPS. The Magus. So the Magus flies around on a disc. Its mirror counterpart is the Engineer. Reason being is that it summons demons. Much like the Engineer, it can summon turrets. However, for the Magus, when you summon a demon, your abilities tend to, and this is just my personal opinion, this is not factual in any way. I personally find the Magus a little bit better than Engineers due to the fact that Chaos don't actually have a lot of range DPS. A lot of people play melee, which makes Magus a highly sought after class for newer players to pick up. It's not hard. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. If you want to play a caster DPS, you cannot go wrong with Magus. There is another option for the Dark Elves, which I'll go onto later in the video, but Magus, when summoning demons, they kind of like the Squig Herder, have different demons for different playstyles and different reasons to summon them. So there's one demon that allows you to do more damage up close, one demon that allows you to do damage from afar, and if you stand near your demon, you can get up to a 40% damage increase. Magus is going to be a very, very strong pick for you, especially if you're one of those caster types. It has a lot of viability with other classes like the Zealot that can give them unique buffs. They're able to get a little bit close and do some AoE damage. They're also one of the better AoE classes to grind with. So if you're going to be grinding with a Marauder or whatnot, the Magus and the Marauder are going to be one of the two, in my opinion, the two best classes to AoE grind on. But that, again, just my opinion. Oh, and the Choppa, if they have a healer. They have no real self-sustain on the Chopper. And the Chosen, the tank for the Chaos Forces. Now, if you ever thought about a Dark Paladin, this is it. The Chosen are able to have a very Paladin-esque playstyle. Their armor at higher levels, as you can see back here, their armor looks really good. These are representations of what some endgame gear looks like. Not the absolute best gear, but some gear. The Chosen will allow, or I'm sorry, the Marauder, the Chosen will allow you to play a tank role while also buffing and debuffing enemies at the same time. So there's auras. So it's kind of like a prot paladin from World of Warcraft. I'm going to be referencing World of Warcraft a lot because it's one of the most popular games. Or it's a lot like the I'm not going to pretend that I know Final Fantasy tanks. Dark Knight? Yes, Dark Knight. The Chosen is going to be like the Dark Knight of Final Fantasy, where you're able to choose auras, and then when you choose those auras, it buffs your allies, but also debuffs those enemies with those auras. You can have up to 3 of them at a time, which is almost a guaranteed pickup for any 6-man group. Chosen buffs are really, really strong. They make your group very, very tanky. They make your group very, very strong, and is a very new player friendly. Its order counterpart is exactly the same, and I'll be going over that in the second video, which you could find right over there, that top corner. It's so lonely over there. I want to just come over there and give it a hug. It's a really lonely button. And finally, we're going to be going over to the Dark Elves. Now, the Dark Elves are one of the only I think it's the only race that actually is gender locked. So if you want to play a male, you don't get access to the Witch Elf, so you have to play female. So we'll start with that one first. The Witch Elf is your rogue. It allows you to put kisses on your weapons, which is just your poisons. It'll allow you to do extra damage, put a healing debuff on people, your standard rogue things that you would do. They don't get their stealth until level 10, which means that they're going to be a little bit weaker in the battlegrounds until you get to level 10. Moving on from there, the Sorceress, range DPS. Sorceress is one of the few casters that we have on the Chaos side. Chaos has the Magus, which is considered a range DPS, and also the Sorceress, which is considered a range DPS. Now, Dark Magic is their special mechanic that allows them to throw out as much damage as they can. However, as they are doing that, they take in a bunch of dark energy, which allows them to gain more crit chance and crit damage. However, each cast has a chance of causing them to explode a little bit, taking a minor bit of damage. So there's a risk and reward playstyle that allows you to get some really high burst damage out and some really nasty fireball or spell crits that can really, really mess up someone's day at the cost of taking in some additional damage purely by chance. It could be random. I've had a couple of different spells back to back explode on me after using instant cast spells, and I took almost half my HP bar when I was at full just by casting 3 spells. It's rewarding, but it also can do a lot of damage to you if you're not careful. And moving on, we have the Blackguard. The Blackguard is the elves' heavy-hitting tank. Now, just like the rest of the tanks, they have their guard mechanic, but they also have their hatred mechanic, which essentially allows them to do more damage. It's not really too much more in-depth than that. They're very skilled in being able to dish out a decent amount of damage, even with a two-handed weapon. They're up there with Black Orc two-handed weapon damage. So if there's not another tank in your group, then run Sword and Shield. If there are multiple tanks, then probably run a Great Weapon and coordinate with your team, obviously, to make use of the extra DPS that the Blackguard can provide when you are maybe a little bit too heavy on tanks in a fight. Just remember to put your guard on the melee DPS or the ranged individuals that are currently getting their ass kicked. From that, moving on, we have the Disciples of Cain. Disciples of Cain are weird. They're healers, but they're also melee oriented, and their playstyle changes from level 1 to level 40. So when you first start out playing the Disciples of Cain, you're going to be running around with 2 swords, and you'll be generating soul reaping charges. You use soul reaping charges to heal yourself and allies around you. At lower level, the healing output is going to be very, very small. You're not really going to notice it. You're going to be mostly DPSing very early on. By the time you get to around level 17, 18, 20 range, you're going to get a little bit more healing. By 25, you'll be able to do a lot more healing, and you'll be able to start actually purely healing. Now, you could do it early on if you focus solely on that, but you're going to have a rough time getting there. Disciples of Cain really don't shine healing-wise until about the early to mid-20s. So be prepared for kind of a slug when you're starting your Disciple of Cain. The damage that you're going to be doing is going to be very significant early on as well, and they still do decent damage up to level 40. So if your 6v6 team needs Disciples of Cain, then there you go. It's going to do a decent amount of damage, it's going to do a decent amount of healing, and that about does it. I want to thank you guys for watching the entire video. If you have, if you want to see the order classes, then go ahead and go on to the part 2 of the 3-part series that I'm doing. And go ahead and follow and subscribe to the channel. If you want to find out where my Twitch is at, you can find it in the link description below. If you want to catch me live, any questions, feel free to ask me there. Or join the Discord to get notified when I do go live on Twitch and new uploads to YouTube as well. Thanks for watching, and you guys have a good day.